XM, it's the Highway. It's a Stormy Warren show. Thrilled to have Aidan Quinn with us. It's cool. I've been following your career for a very long time, and you play some amazing roles, diverse roles, and maybe one of the coolest roles you've ever played in your life is Theodore Roosevelt on The American Guest on HBO Max. And it's a miniseries that focuses on a very specific time in Theodore's life, his fascination with the Amazon. What did you learn about this fascination playing Theo?
Well, I mean, it does also flash back to his times in the White House and how he became president and all that. But it's primarily centered on his trip down the Amazon, the uncharted parts of the Amazon, where he was with a famous Brazilian explorer. They were charting the uncharted parts of the Amazon, and it's about all the death-defying things, the murder that went on, the near-death experiences that they had on an almost daily basis. And this was Teddy Theodore's last chance to be a boy, as he says.
Well, and he faced danger not just in the Amazon, but almost in every daily experience that he had too. I mean, you learned that along the way. I mean, from being shot, giving a speech and continuing the speech, it kind of set the tone, didn't it?
Yes, yes. They don't make them like that anymore. Can you imagine a politician getting shot today and then going on and delivering a 90-minute speech all about the social ills in this world and how he was unconcerned about the bullet in his chest? Amazing. His 50-page speech, because he was long-winded, was folded over inside his waistcoat, and his steel spectacle case was also there. So the bullet went through 100 pages and the steel spectacle case. And he knew, being a hunting man, that if he coughed and there was not blood coming out, that it hadn't reached his lungs and that he should be okay for a while.
A self-diagnosis on the spot. That's amazing.
Yes. So he said, I'm going to deliver. This is my last speech in the campaign, and I'm not going to be stopped from delivering it.
No,
I mean, it's what a contradiction. The man is such a contradiction. You know, he's this high class, wealthy man that was also a man of the people.
Which is why he is one of the most exciting and unique and interesting presidents we've ever had. Yeah. Playing a real life president, that's always a challenge for an actor because you have to do it right. History is there. There's not a lot of wiggle room as far as who the person is. So taking that on, obviously a challenge.
Yes, indeed. Especially because you could take 5 years and I had about 5.5 weeks to get ready. But you just drown yourself in the biographies, in the videos, in the few recordings there were, you just drown yourself in it. And I happened to look at a picture of him smiling with his big teeth. And I took that picture to a dentist and I said, somebody has to help me. I need these teeth. And the woman in Sao Paulo that was part of the production that they hired to help me, they were able to make the teeth. So that helped an awful lot. Also, I gained 25 pounds and that didn't hurt. And my wife tells me you still have way too much of it.
Hanging on to a couple leftover pounds.
More than a couple.
You look for inspiration to become a character, especially like we were saying, with playing a president or a real life character. You look for that transition, that one thing that turns you into it. Was it the teeth for you? Was it the teeth when you looked in the mirror and went, there he is?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The teeth, certainly the costume, which was brilliant.
The spectacles.
We had all the historical photographs to fashion those on, but the teeth really, really did it. And when I occasionally would forget that my teeth were here when I start doing a scene, I just would go, something's wrong. Oh, I'm not wearing the teeth.
I'm not Teddy anymore.
Yes.
It's so great. Aidan Quinn is with us. I want to talk more about The American Guest and a lot of other things too. In fact, we just learned your connection to country music. This is The Highway. The Highway on Sirius XM. Aidan Quinn is with us. The American Guest on HBO Max, a 4-part miniseries focusing on Teddy Roosevelt, one of the most interesting presidents in our U.S. history, a daredevil, a dangerous man, as you said before, a classy man, and he loved nature. And that's really what drew him to the Amazon. And that's what this focus of this miniseries is, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, he was the first president to say, or first environmentalist. I mean, he said, if we don't save our natural resources, our natural, beautiful places. He said, there's no point in anything else because we're going to kill ourselves. He was saying that in the early 1900s. I mean, he knew that when you get out of balance with this stuff, that it wreaks havoc on everything. And, he saved 260 million acres in America. Yeah. The national parks are because of him and everything. He was the first person to go against for a 5-day work week. There's so many things. He was incredible. He was a poet. He wrote 26 books, 30 books, something. He was a cowboy. He was a Rough Rider. He was a boxer. Someone was making fun of his high-pitched patrician accent when he was 23-year-old in the New York State Assembly. He was the youngest assemblyman up here in Albany, and he went up and he knocked him out.
Do you think that's where Ernest?
And then when the guy came to, he stood up and he knocked him out again. I mean,
guy was a badass.
Yeah, he was a boxer. He was.
Do you think that's where Ernest Hemingway drew inspiration?
I don't know. I mean, it could be. There's certainly some Ernest
similarities there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. He would have admired. Absolutely.
Well, you said he wrote 26 books. You've started over 60 films. Where do you rate this movie and your portrayal of Teddy up against your other roles? I mean, this has to be way up there.
This is right at the top. Well, absolutely right at the top. I mean, it was a great honor to get to play him. And, I'm just thrilled to have gotten to play him, and with this great script and with this wonderful cast, Danny Delaney, who's my wife, amazing. Who's fantastic. And Chico Diaz, the wonderful Brazilian actor, Chris Mason, who plays my son. It was just a great, great cast. And director did a wonderful job, Bruno Beretta, and a brilliant script. Yeah.
Do you think Teddy was that much of a daredevil before the assassination attempt, or is it one of those natural responses as a human being where it's a fight or flight? You either cripple because of that trauma, or you rise above it, and you almost have this sense of invincibility. What did you learn through the process?
Well, I think he became a daredevil very early on because he was a weakling kid with asthma problems. He couldn't even go to school for years. His asthma was so bad. He almost died many times. And then his father told him, he said, you have this magnificent mind, but you have got to build your body. Wow. Your body must match your mind. And he gave him all this gym equipment and signed him up for the local gym down there in the Bowery. And so he would go to the Bowery, and he just started remaking from this little weakling kid, making himself into this barrel-chested figure. And he was just determined. And I think since that point, he just took on risk and said, I'm going for it. I don't care.
Thank goodness he did, both politically and physically. He took risks. I mean, can you imagine our country without the national park system?
Oh, my God. Imagine.
No, I can't.
Wow. I mean, it's unbelievable. Can't even think about it.
I don't want to. Aidan Quinn is here, the American Guest. It's on HBO Max. One more segment with him. I got to get to country music and one of my favorite roles of your career. This is The Highway. The Highway on Sirius XM. It's the Stormy Warren Show. Aidan Quinn is here. He plays President Theodore Roosevelt in The American Guest on HBO Max, 4-part miniseries. A lot of history in this miniseries, but really focusing on his love of the Amazon and the trials and tribulations. It's not the first time you've been to the Amazon shooting a movie, is it?
No. I did a film called I Play in the Fields of the Lord by another great American author, Peter Matheson, that was starred Kathy Bates, John Lithgow, Tom Waits, Tom Berenger, Daryl Hannah. And I did that 32 years ago. And I promised my wife that 3-month job turned into 6 months, that I would never, ever go back to the Amazon to do a movie. A solemn promise. And yet when I read the script, I said, hon, I hate to tell you this. I'm going back to the Amazon.
Yeah, I'm sure there was a little trepidation with the return, I'm sure.
Yes. It's a very tough place to make a movie, But, we survived. We were talking about the Songcatcher and your connection to very early country music from the Maybelle Carter and the Carter family in Bristol, Tennessee, and the very early days. I mean, that had to have been quite an education to the early parts of our genre. It was incredible to see that the connection to the old Scottish and Irish songs that were surviving hundreds of years later up in the hills. Yeah. And that story chronicles a musicologist who's going into the hills and making these early recordings, and then finding out, oh my God, that's the root of that is this old Scottish ballad or this old Irish ballad. And I got to work in North Carolina, in Asheville and Weaverville, and it was an extraordinary place. I got to stay in a cold water cabin for the 5 weeks. We were scouting, and it was in pre-production. And I said to the lady, I said, that cabin up there in the top of the holler there, I said, is that inhabited? She said, oh, that's been empty for years. I said, well, would you consider renting? Oh, she said it only has cold water. I said, would you consider renting? She said, you give me $100, you can have for 5 weeks. You're here.
That's great.
So I gave her $100, and I stayed up there, and that's where I learned how to play my guitar songs that I had to sing and thing. And
what a cool experience.
I would sing to the woods. Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. What do you think Alfred Ludlow did following the ending of Legends of the Fall? I've always wondered what happened to Alfred. Have you ever thought about that as playing that character? Did you progress him further?
Yeah, I think he became pretty powerful if he got away with it. I don't know if it depends on where they buried those bodies.
The Missouri River, I believe. But yes. Who knows? That role, that movie, I mean, it's basically a Shakespearean tragedy, and it affects. I've probably seen it more than just about any movie I've ever watched, and and I don't know why, because it is a tragic story, but it just sucks you in. I'm sure that script, when you first read it, is just like, wow, there's no lift in this thing, but that's kind of a cool thing about it, right?
Yeah. Again, one of the great American authors, who we recently passed, Jim Harrison. But so, yeah, he's just a brilliant writer. And people relate to that film and the story because it's a kind of almost a mythic kind of thing that everyone can seemingly relate to. I loved working on that. It was great.
Oh, it's a fantastic movie. Fantastic career. Great to catch up with you, Aidan Quinn.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, The American Guest. The American Guest, yes. HBO Max, 4-part miniseries. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're very welcome, sir.